Well, hello. Here I am in living color. Almost here in living color. Whoosh. Yeah. We got Epidemic instrumental playing in the background, which is our theme song, so to speak. There I am. There it is. My collection of old iPads that I pulled out of retirement. This one is my control panel for the latest news. Over here I've got my iPhone working. That's saying I've been on air 1 minute, 17 seconds, 18, 19, 20, 21. We got an iPad over here. That's the current time to the second. Connected to the through and by and around the National Bureau of Standards. Mr. Bob. I got an iPad up here, which is serving as a delayed live feed of various network TV channels, keeping up on the current events in case there's exploding news. Here's my warm tea. Yes, sir. Well, I've converted from having a wallet to having these little silicone things right here. This got my driver's license in it. How about that? Yes, sir. Officer? Embedded behind my driver's license, there's two cards in each one of these. I'll show it to you. I'm not taking them all apart, but I'll take this one apart. Is my concealed weapons permit. Officer, yes, I have a concealed weapons permit. Yes, sir, I am armed and dangerous. But I don't have any in the car. Yes, thank you very much. And if I do, let me call my attorney. And I'm not talking anymore. Anyway, so that's one little pocket. Here is another one, which I have my debit card in there. And behind it is my business card with my phone number, email address, and everything. So in case I lose this, that's two packets. And in the third packet, I don't know what's in it. I think this is the one that's red. I have to keep track of this because I can't be opening them up all the time or else the system is not going to work. This has got my, this has got my Tesla card in it. Your key is your phone. Your phone is your key. But when you're going to valet your car, you don't really have a key. So you have to kind of leave this card behind because this is what drives the car and locks the car, which of course they never do. And it's got my phone number on it and email address and everything, and my name, of course. So if Merrill and I were going out, I would take these three little packets and put them in my back pocket because that's got my credit card. And I have a fourth one. Pray tell what's in this one. It's black, so it's not a key. Spare credit card. emergency credit card. So we'll just leave that baby in there. These are the three. I'm going to keep the driver's license one in my back pocket at all times. And the red one has the, I'll always remember that. The red one has the, this is the valet card. Now, since I'm not driving the car today, I don't need that in my pocket. But I'm going to keep my ID in my pocket at all times, in case I fall over on my face. And someone says, "Who the hell's this?" They can reach around in my pockets, and in my back pocket, they will find my driver's license and some ID. In my other back pocket, I have this thing, which has my son's business cards. He's sales manager over at Jam Lexus out there in Sample Road. So, doing a marvelous job representing the Lexus brand of cars. I've driven one. I had the RX 450H. H standing for hybrid. And that was like 8 or 10 years ago. And it was a magical car. I really liked it. Yeah. But I'm driving a Tesla now. And I love that a whole lot. The whole electric car thing, you charge it up. And I found out that I had bonus miles. How about that? Bonus miles. Or points, bonus points. And bonus points, you can convert them to you can buy with 45 or 4,800 points. You can buy 2,000 miles of range at super stations. So, I mean, it's nice. So I exchanged 4,800 points for 2,000 miles of usability on my Tesla. So let's get up my Tesla account here. We can see there it is. It's parked. See, it says parked. I want to go over here to the this page right here, and I'm going to click charging. There you go. See, I've used 146 of the 2,000 miles of range at super stations. So they don't charge you for on peak, off peak. You just this is just miles, which is nice. I like it. So Marilyn went to the supercharger yesterday and put 146 miles of range in the fuel tank. How about that? I'm using the word fuel instead of electricity because, yeah, that's kind of like weird. You know, what do you have, a bucket of electricity? No. So we're just going to call it fuel. So I have 18, as you can see on here, 1,854 miles remaining. Now it expires in February, but we'll use, you know, when you buy these miles, actually you're redeeming points. I think it's called points. It's not dollars, it's points. So I think it's pretty cool. We earned the points because we got the car. And bammo, 10,000 points showed up. And then you can redeem your points. You can buy, I bought a belt buckle. A belt buckle that fits on my belt. You know, like in Texas, where with the cowboys and they got the belt buckles. Well, my belt will support the buckle. So I got a Tesla buckle. Yeah, I think it cost me $100. Because it cost me 1,000 points, and I'm going to assume the point is worth like 10 cents, something like that. So what the heck? But I really like the miles thing, because now instead of it hitting my debit card for 39 cents a kilowatt, which is expensive, or 45 cents a kilowatt, depending on whether you fill up your car on a peak time or an off-peak time, and so you got peak and off-peak. That gets annoying. So if you show up there at like 11 a.m. on Saturday, well, forget it. Everybody's trying to charge up on a weekend, because they're too busy on a weekday. They don't want to go there when it's dark, although it's nicely lit. The one over in the mall, or near the mall, it's in the mall parking garage. I would call it the Nordstrom's parking garage. Yeah. Yeah, what do you want? Cats. You hear the cat whining? Probably wants me to fill up its food bowl. It's time to eat. Well, you'll have to wait. Hey. Yeah, come on over here. My boy cat's whining at me. Feed me, feed me. Yeah, I know. So, anyway, so that's the points. That's miles. I'm reading it right off the Tesla app, which is plugged into the car, or not plugged in, but electronically synced to the car. What do we got? 3,296 miles on it so far. Seems like a lot of miles. Let's see. So that's we got it in March, mid-March, April, May, June, July. 6 months. There you go. 6 months, 3,000 miles. That's 500 miles a month. So, not much. So we drive 6,000 or 7,000 miles a year on a car. We turned in. We had another one. Model Y. We got it in 2021. We turned it in 2024 and got a brand new one. Excess wear and tear and all that kind of stuff. Cost me $55 with all the allowances. We got the other one in June. We got this one in March, a couple months early. So you say, how did that happen? Well, if you turn it in early, you still got to pay the last 2 months. So if you turn it in 2 months early, you still got to pay the last 2 months. Well, why the hell would you do that? Just wait until June. Well, Tesla said, aha, if you turn it in March, we'll buy the last 2 months for you. So you won't have to pay the last 2 months. Which is what they did. Yep. And it had 20,000 miles on it. 1,900, 980. Yeah, that's not 20,000. Right now we're driving at the clip that it would be, if you extend it out over, it would be about 21,000 miles. For some reason or other, I drove it a little bit more. The car, I'll tell you what, at my age, crowding 80. I'm not there yet, but I am crowding it. I got 6 more months, and then it's going to be the big 8-0. 8-0! Gosh, I'm meeting with my cardiologist tomorrow. Make sure I get to 80. He says I'm going to get to 94. I don't know how they figure that out, but he wrote 94 on my chart and circled it. He said, "No, you're good till 94." I said, huh, "All right, well." I'll tell you what, he saved my fanny, because about 6 years ago I was laying, in the bed in the hospital with a heart issue, and we didn't know what it was. Dr. Ordonez came in, he listened here and he listened there, and he said, "James, you had a minor heart attack. And the reason why it's minor is because you got in here right away, before there was extensive heart damage. You had a little bitty damage in the bottom of your heart. We saw it. He did a angioplasty. That's a fancy word for shoving a camera up your blood vein. It goes up around your chest and, oh my God, around, and they takes pictures and he takes videos, the heart, and he shows where the blockages are. And I didn't understand how to see that. I should ask him again to show me if he has it handy, which of course he probably doesn't. His office is directly across the street from the emergency entryway of the hospital. So, he could walk right across from his place. He doesn't need to drive a car. He just walk across the street, leave his car parked behind his office building. Yep. So I'm going to see Dr. Ordonez tomorrow, and have him just do a little listen, and we'll have a little chat. Tell him that I'm not taking metropolol any longer because, my heart pressure seems to be under control, and we don't need to slow down my pulse, because at night it gets too slow. So we can either cut back on the amount of metropolol, like cut it in half, or I haven't been taking it. I just haven't been taking it. I haven't been renewing the refills. I don't need it. So we'll see what he says. I'd rather not take it if I don't have to take it. When in doubt, don't. If you don't need it, don't take it. That's my medical theory. There seemed to be a need a couple of years ago. My heart was running a little bit, the pulse is a little bit fast. I can tell you what, you can look right here. I'll show you what my pulse is. All right. Well, at 1 a.m., you see this right here? 1:28 a.m. when I did a print screen on this film. My pulse was at 75. And then this tracing here is how my pulses are going up and down. Now, this probably has to do with REM sleep and all that stuff when you're sleeping. This is what it did the day before. So, a high of 85 and a low of, 69. So that's the range of my pulse. As you can tell, I'm not running around the building. So I'm not getting my heart. I don't want my heart to go over, 120. I have it, you can set the red lines and, oh my God, if it gets over 120, I gotta, my wrist goes, my Apple Watch goes a little nuts. Because I don't know what's going on here. But delete the recording. Yeah, we don't need to. voice memos. No. I don't know why that's on. There we go. It says I'm at 35% battery, so let's just put that on there. I'll charge the battery. I got everything very conveniently located in my little world of influence here. Yeah. Anyway, so you can see my pulse going up and down. It was 175, and I could have looked at my watch before I took it off, and here you go. My blood oxygen at 1:28 a.m. was at 96, which is good. You want that, around at least, 95 to 100. 96 is right there. Yep. You can see the state of charge of my various devices. My AirPoddy Waddies are, fully charged. The case itself is 95% charged. My Apple Watch at this time, remember, 1:28 in the morning, is around 70%, I'd say. My iPhone, they just show you, the images of what it looks like, because there's no room on here to caption it, and the print would be too fine to read anyway, unless you did this reverse bench business, which I'm doing now. So that's my phone. Is about that's 60, 70, 75% would be up here, so it's 70. Let's call it 70. 70, 95, 100%. There you go. So the watch has a lot of convenient visual aids, and once you get properly trained in the iPhone. Properly trained meaning I've had one since iPhone 4 when they went to the 4-inch screen or whatever. Now they got a 6-inch screen. The iPhone Pro Max Super Duper is, which I have. I have the iPhone 15 Super Duper, which has got a 6.5-inch screen or 6.9-inch screen or 6.8-inch screen, something like that. We're all iPhone happy right now because it just was announced that September 9th, which is a Monday. Very unusual for for Apple to have their big announcement party gathering international event. It is quite international, and probably 200 or 300 million people watching and attending. Only 3,000 of the the world's population, just 3,000 people are invited to attend. Of course, I'm not invited because I'm just a talking head here in Boca Raton. A loyal Apple person. If they had Apple underwear, I'd be wearing them. But they don't sell Apple underwears that I'm aware of. Probably some third-party supplier does, but not Apple. I have Apple Watch. I have Apple phone. I have right here. I'm tapping on my MacBook Pro. Actually, it's a MacBook Air, which is a MacBook Pro that's a little tiny bit thinner. It has no fan up in this top section here. It's a 15-inch screen, beautiful screen. It has 24 gigabytes of memory. It has a well, gosh darn it, I can't forget the chip. It has like an M chip. Let's go to About This Mac. It shows up on my. It has an Apple M2 chip. M2. I think they're up to M4 now. The new MacBook Air, which I don't think they do MacBooks at this meeting. This is iPhone, Apple Watch, and their services. You know, they talk about how well they're doing with the their App Store and their services, which of course we're subscribed to all the services. We're using Sequela software version 15.0. We're a MacBook beta testers. More info. I can click that one. What does that give me? Oh, it goes right to the, what do you call it? Yep. It gives me the serial number. We're on Apple Care. September 19th. We pay something. I can see there's a pay date there. Anyway, let's get rid of this. So, Apple is having their big talk at 1 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. 10 a.m. Excuse me, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and you can stream it right from the Apple site, which is known as Events. Yeah, there's all kinds of ways of getting into the streaming of it. I think I'm going to try to stream it through YouTube. I'm becoming a YouTuber. I'm listening to a lot of, programming talking about the Apple robots, and the hundreds of thousands of these robots they're going to build. You can just imagine them all standing up in a warehouse and doing some exercises. But they can all be exact. They all do it at the same time. They all do their watch to see that. They should all be wearing Apple Watches so they can look at them. But he's made the robot look like a person. With a head and shoulders and legs and arms and fingers that are have the same number of joints as our hands. Apparently, that was engineered pretty nicely. It seems like the Apple engineers really like the hand. They haven't been able to, do another hand as efficiently. Because they could make the hand any way they want to. Because it's not like, it's a manufactured item, so they like the hand. They need to teach it how to walk, because it walks kind of goofy if you look at it walk around. At least the version 2 bot, B-O-T. But it is quite interesting watching the development. He says we're going to sell millions of these robots, and so we're going to get the price down to like $8,000 or $10,000 somewhere in there, so that you could finance it and all this stuff. We'll probably lease it to you, for God's sakes. And Jimmy can have a friend. Probably the robot. Jimmy's got a friend, so robot, will you please get me a hot tea with milk and sugar, please? And they run into the kitchen and go, figure out how to make some tea. Yeah. I wonder if Robbie Robot could drive. Does he need a driver's license, or is the automated driving system credentials enough? Maybe I could just say, hey, Robbie, just bring my car around to the front door. I don't want to go around the garage. You do that. Try not to crash into anything. Okay, Jimmy. It'll talk to you. Elon Musk just announced that you don't have to program it on your iPhone or something. You can actually tell it what to do, and it'll talk back to you if you want it to talk back to you. If it needs a clarification, you say, "Would you please clarify?" And you can have a voice. Whose voice would you like me to emulate? We don't want to say copy, because copy, maybe you need licensing, or is it trademarked, or copyright protection. I wrote a book, and it's copyright protected. Pearson Education bought the book from me. That's how it works. I was always curious about, if you write a book and it gets published and it ends up in a bookstore and all, how's that all work? Well, let me tell you how it works. The publisher, in my case, was Pearson Education, which, as you may know, or you may not know, depending on what you know about books and education, Pearson is the best. It's the biggest. It's the strongest. It is the Mercedes-Benz of publishing companies. Huge, really well done. They only attract, I'm ashamed to say this, they only attract the best authors. They bought my book, so I made one mistake. No, I wrote a book. It's not handy. I like it. It's a good job. I need to have my book handy. Let me just take a look and see if it's over here. No, it's not there. Is it on the bookshelf over there? I don't see it there either. I've got 4 or 5 copies around here, but there doesn't seem to be. I'll get it. I'll show it to you next time. Yeah, it's nice. It's well done. I was very. Actually, it's a collection of all my classes that I taught at FAU. I've been adjunct faculty there for since October 2000, maybe a couple of years earlier than 2000. Yeah, this is 24. Yeah, no, 2003. Since October 2003. That's when they bought my book, and I became adjunct faculty. Like a week later. I think 17 days later, actually. Dr. Harlan, who's the one that sponsored me to all the scientists, the faculty, the full-time faculty at FAU, they vote as to whether you are going to be adjunct faculty or not, amongst those elite folks. So I had to get serious and act academic. I'm one of the ones that I'm on the edge of being academic. I like to be a fun teacher as opposed to being a stuffy old boring one that sits behind the desk and acts very professorial. I like to be a little bit animated, if you will. And because you want to keep your students engaged, interested in what you're talking about, and so anyway, I had to meet with several John Harlan, Dr. Harlan, who was my friend at FAU, who was part of the tenured faculty at FAU. He He was one of the highest paid faculty people, you know. Anyway, so he sponsored me, you know, spoke up for me when they had their meeting. You know, they had meetings once a week or once a month, I forget which, and maybe once a month it's on the agenda for anyone that wants to speak up for somebody, sponsor somebody for becoming adjunct faculty. So what does adjunct mean? Well, it means that you're not, you know, a full-time faculty member, or you're not campaigning to be a member of the faculty full-time. You're a member of the business or scientific community outside of FAU, and you are interested in subjecting yourself to teaching at FAU on campus. So I was teaching a class called Principles of Digital Photography in the Continuing Education Department at FAU. They had a Continuing Education Department. Continuing Ed. So I taught there. You know, and people taught all kinds of topics. You know, like for the geriatric group, you know, they had like an exercise class, and it was, you know, they learn a little bit about kinesiology and, you know, your muscles and your joints, and they'd name them and yada yada, and then you do some exercises to move that muscle to the point where it got tired out. Anyway, I was a room off onto the right side of the they had a building, the Continuing Education building. I'll have to think about what's in there now. I actually don't know who's in there now. Oops. So anyway, I was in that building. They disbanded the Continuing Education Department. So in the meantime, I met up with Dr. Harlan. I forget how I met him. I think he was just sitting next to me when I was in Max's Grill, you know, having a cocktail with Marilyn, and he happened to be sitting there right next to me, you know, at Max's Grill. And, hi, how are you? I'm fine. How you doing? What do you do? He does this. I do that. You know, I was a, you know, director and, you know, the bank and all that, and I'm teaching continuing ed, principles of digital photography. And I said, you know what, they're doing away with the Continuing Education Department, and I want to continue teaching principles of digital photography. And I've got, like, you know, I think I had 18 lessons, you know, 18 weeks worth of, you know, I wrote up a thing, which I printed up and handed out page by page to the students for this, you know, hour and a half, 2 hour class that I taught at Continuing Education. So I write up these, you know, lesson 1, you know, lesson 2, lesson 3. So, and it was, you know, how to basically operate Photoshop. We use Photoshop Express, which is a, you know, a program that written by Adobe, A-D-O-B-E, Adobe, and the software operated on either Windows or Mac computers or iPads or iPhones, you know, for that matter. So I wrote lesson plans. That's the better way to call it. And my lesson plan basically was, you know, chapter 1, chapter 2, and you know, the first one was maybe using the levels tool, or you know, the crop tool. That'd be one. the crop tool, the color tool, you get all these tools in Photoshop. And I go through them one by one. Maybe a lesson plan had 2 tools, But anyway, so I got Dr. Harlan put me in front of the, not physically, but my resume and my case, and I had several years worth of continuing education. And the one thing that FAU does, no matter what's being taught, whether it's a continuing education class, which is a paid for class, and I was paid to do it, like at the end of when it's all over, after all the each student would do an evaluation of an anonymous evaluation. Each student would do one, not multiple, just one. So it was like a vote, and it was kind of like a thumbs down, thumbs up. But they'd ask like 10 or 20, 10 or 15 questions about the class, and did you like it, and was it too complicated, was it too simple, did he go too fast, did he go too slow, did he announce his words properly, did he look clean and neat and orderly, or did he look like a slob, But I had all these questionnaires, and so you had check marks, left and right, going all the way down. So anyone could speed look at that and see if you had most of the check marks, on the good column rather than the not so good column. And you could count them all up, and was he 90% positive or 90% negative? And you had to keep all those and send them in, and once the continuing education department got all the evaluation forms, anonymous ones, so if you had 19 students, you had to have 19 evaluation forms. Every student had to turn one in. The evaluation forms were anonymous, but so you had to have 19 if you had 19 students. No one could hold it back. And, there was no effort to try to figure out who evaluated the professor, which way. I would know. I know that a student over in a corner was kind of a dud. But even a dud student isn't going to evaluate you terribly just because he's a boring dud student that's not paying attention very well. So, and my class was a fun class, and I was an animated, relatively fun professor. I wasn't a stuffy old fart. I was a non-stuffy young fart. Oh boy. Anyway, so Dr. Harlan asked me, this is a fellow that I met at the bar at Max's Grill, and so we chatted, met him for a couple of months, this and that, and he was very interested in what I was doing and interested in the fact that I was alive inside and animated and not boring. And I said, I need a place where I need a room where I could teach these kids. They're all adults, It's an evening class, 6:30 in the evening, goes to 9:30. It's about 3 hours with a 15-minute break in the middle somewhere. And he says, yeah, we'll make you adjunct faculty and you can teach in the College of Science. I said, marvelous, let's do that. And I had these 24 lessons all written up. So this is my lesson plan. And I'll, with each course schedule, I try to get through these 24. I haven't had a class yet where I was able to get through all the lessons. I get through 18 or 19 and then we run out of time. You know, because my plan in teaching this class is that you know, just like one of the lessons, like, you know, dealing with cropping. You know, so I'd stand up in front of the class, and I'd have my MacBook computer in front of me, but I'm facing the class, and the MacBook is facing me, and it's plugged into the overhead projector, and the overhead projector then basically I'd have it synced up, so it would do, you know, on the overhead projector exactly what I'm doing on the MacBook. So I would open up, you know, the first thing is, you know, how are you? Introduce each other. And then we would get into the book now. And so, let's see. So I would hand out one page at a time, not the whole thing. Just the first page. I turn out the first page, you know. So my particular lesson plan for, let's say, 2 of the tools that I was using in Photoshop, I'd turn out one page, and then we would look at the page and like we go from top to bottom, kind of read over the page in generalities, show the page up on the projector. Well, they have the page in front of them. And I said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to open up sample image number 407. So they'd all have a CD-ROM with image 407 on it. They'd go get image 407. I said, no, we're going to get it so we can see it on all our computers separately, because each student had an active computer in front of them, a Windows computer. So they put the CD-ROM in there, and you know, each student was, you know, reasonably familiar on how to turn on a computer and get it started. I would have all the computers on. I'd have the FAU technology people get all the computers so they were on. They were like in some kind of a standby mode, but they were on. So we knew they were working. And I had 24 operating computers, and usually more than 20 students. So anyway, they get it up, and I have it on my overhead projector, and I'm looking over at it. And so then I said, now you all are going to sit there and do nothing but watch me. And I'm going to do it, and you're going to see it on the screen here. And I'm going to use the crop tool in Photoshop Express. We're going to open up the software. I said, no, you're not doing anything. Hands on the desk. Hands on top. I want to see the hands. Yeah. Because I didn't want them diddly-daddling. I wanted them paying attention to me. You know, you only have to pay attention to me for 5 minutes. And I'm just going to go through this real quickly, but thoroughly. And then the next thing we're going to do is you are going to do, you know, privately, by yourself, you're going to go get image 407, and you're going to crop it just the way I did. But you're going to do it. So then they all do it, you know, with me, and then I do it. So we're going to do it together. I'm going to start over and do it again. And I want you to do it on your computer. So you're using the crop tool, you know, with your keyboard and your pointers and all the mechanisms that you have with your computer. You're able to bring your own laptop if you'd wish, rather than using the student computer. That's fine. Matter of fact, if you're more comfortable that way, that's fine. Make sure your battery is charged. You can do it on your iPad. I don't want you doing it on the iPhone because the screen's too small, and I want, you and me to have a better visualization of what you're doing than trying to have this on a very small screen. So they would have, some people brought in their iPads, some people brought in their computers, and some people just used the computer that was, provided by the university. So the first thing is I did it, hands on the table. The second time we would do it again, and they could do it while I'm doing it. So I would talk while they're doing. So they could either look up at me while they're working along with me, or they could work at their own pace. And then we'd do it a third time with me not up front, and I'll walk around and watch you do it on image 408. We did it together on 407. So now on 408, I want you to go get it and do a crop on 408. And I'm going to walk around and look over your shoulder, and you can put your hand up if you want, me to give you special attention because you're stuck with something. So that's how I'd go through every chapter, and it took 3 hours to do that. And when they walked out of that class, they knew how to do Photoshop cropping, and that was the idea. And I said, now wasn't that nice? Yeah, everybody is completely capable of cropping in Photoshop. 3 hours ago you didn't know how to do it. 3 hours later you do. So that's, now I got 24 lessons here in this book. When they bought the book, and you can look ahead and see all the things we're going to do in the future. So now you understand. I mean, they paid like $100 for the book in the bookstore. Pearson Education didn't give it away. But because it was a relatively limited, they paid me $40,000 for the first edition. There was a second edition. They paid me again. 2003, and then in 2007 there was a second edition, which was revised, updated. I added a few chapters, and they republished it, as a second edition in 2007, I believe. And it's printed inside in the cover. It shows 2003, 2007. It's really quite. So they buy your book, Pearson Education. You meet with the. I had a conference with what is known as the acquisitions editor. The acquisitions editor, which was a nice young lady, 45 years old. I was probably 50, and I showed her. She said, can you describe the book? So I described the book. May I see the manuscript? I said, why, certainly. So I reached out in my briefcase and I pull out. I actually made a sample of the book. I mean, I went to Kinko's, whatever, and I made the book. I said, Madam, whatever your name was, Miss, whatever. I said, this is the way I want it. So I gave a copy to her. I gave a copy to Dr. Harlan. This is like at 10:30 in the morning on a Thursday, and I had a copy for me. I said I printed up 3 of these in Kinko's. And I said that I wanted on this cardstock. I wanted to look at, spiral bound. I don't want it bound any other way. 120-pound card stock for the cover, and 100-pound stock for the page, glossy paper on the inside. And this is exactly, how I want it. She says, my God. She's, wow. I've never seen anybody produce a prototype of the book. In all my acquisitions editing, you're the first. I said, marvelous. I like to be the first. It's like winning a race. She said, yeah, this is marvelous. I said, you can edit it any way you want. I've spell checked it. I've read it a couple times. I wrote it, But how when you write things, sometimes you think of it one way, but the words come out a little bit different, or they're misspellings and, errors. And I said, I've hopefully cleaned all that up, but if you find anything that's not right, fix it. You don't have to ask me, just fix it. If you're going to rewrite something, I'd like to know about that. She said, oh no, I won't rewrite anything. I said, this is marvelous. Makes my job very easy. I said, yeah, because I'm showing you exactly the way I want it. Now, you need to figure out how to communicate that with the people that manufacture the books. Your factories and, it's 120 pound stock. Make note of this, please. 120 pounds cover stock, front and back covers, and 100-pound card stock. Could be 110 if you want, for each page. Printed on both sides, color, 4-color. I have pictures and graphics and things in here. I want everything. Some of these images I took out of, this book, which is DK Publishing. She said, oh great, we own DK Publishing. I said, I think I knew that. I said, that way, you need permissions, because I took some of their graphics rather than me spending the time recreating it. They had marvelous renditions of exactly what I was talking about in my front couple of chapters. All the other graphics, the pictures that you see in there are on the CD-ROM, which is in the back of the book, in a little pocket, that's the way I want you to do it. And she said, this is great. She's kind of giggling, looks over to Dr. Harlan, and she's bought, 4 or 5 of his books, because he's been teaching at FAU for, a number of years. She said, this is great. So let me, if you don't mind, let me take a few minutes so she had this 4-inch free ring binder. I mean, it is the biggest free ring binder I've actually ever seen. It was like 4 inches thick. Probably had to weigh, 5 pounds. So she went, she had it on her knees, and she pages through and looks for something here, and then she, goes through some tabs, and she, opens up the free ring binder to that other alternate tab location, and she spent about 5 minutes. Meantime, Dr. Harlan and I, he's sitting over here on my right, it's like a triangle, and we're chit-chatting while she's, and he's looking at my book, because this is the first time he's seen it. He knew about it, and he could see it online, but he hasn't seen, the hard copy version of it and all so forth. And he goes, the publisher's supposed to come up with that, but I did a prototype of the book. He says, James, this is outstanding. You actually created a prototype of the book. Yeah, and then she pipes up. She said, yeah, it's lucky if they're clipped together on everybody else that writes books for us. There's type pages and they're crimped together with one of those big metal clips. I said, yeah, no, I'd rather do it this way. That way there's no misunderstandings on, how we want this to look when it's all done. The inside content is important, which we focus on. But I am experienced at writing. A lot of, my mother was, an English scholar, valedictorian of her class, and, some of it has rubbed off on me, So, here we are. So she looked back. She said, "Gentlemen, Mr. Wilson," she said, "your book is unique." I said, "Well, thank you. That's a compliment, right?" She said, "No, there's no other book like it in the published world. Either ourselves or our competitors. No one has delivered a book quite like this. So this is unique. This is important. Because we wouldn't take it if it wasn't unique." I said, "Well, good." So financially, the typical 15% commission, is that correct, for royalty? She said, "Okay, we'll pay you 15%. Dr. Harlan whispered to me and said, 15% is the maximum they'll pay. Just tell her that's what you want." So that was like privately before we had the meeting. I said, "Yes, great. That's good." I want it in the bookstore, of course. And, how soon can we? She said, "I will have, we'll take this. And you'll have an offer in 10 days. I will reach back out to you by email and send you a FedEx of a contract, an acquisitions contract. And they literally buy the book from you, in exchange for them paying you royalties. So you basically give them the book. Give is not the right word. They acquire the book from you in exchange for you getting royalties on the book. That's how it works. Sometimes, when you're, the President of the United States or the Pope or something, and you write a book, or you're, like Hillary Clinton or, Bill Clinton or JFK or whoever, and you write a book, they may pay you in advance. They call it in advance. They may pay you, $500,000 or $1 million advance. And basically it's an advance on the royalties that you're going to get once it's published and in bookstores and people start buying it up. So if you've got a $2 million advance on your book, the first $2 million worth of your royalties finances that, repays that advance, so to speak. And then everything over that, they pay you whatever royalty, arrangement that you have with the publisher. So that's it. That's how it works. So while that process was going on, Harlan is meeting with, got all my papers, my evaluation forms, because I taught several years in the continuing ed. So I had several packets, in big envelopes of all the evaluation forms, anonymous, from the students of the last 2 or 3 or 4 classes that I taught in the continuing education department, which was folding its wings, in 2003, I think. Yeah. Because the book was published into October of 2003. And so anyway, Dr. Harlan got me my adjunct faculty thing, and he wrote me a letter, and congratulations, by unanimous vote, not anonymous vote, by unanimous vote, you have been approved to be adjunct professor at the College of Science at Florida Atlantic University. It's important, because FAU's, a 30,000 student. At that time, it was a 22,000 student university. Today, it's 30,000 students. And it's a major state university. What the heck? So that's something to be proud of, in a sense. Yeah, pat myself on the back a little bit. So I taught, for quite a few years. And the only reason why I'm not teaching there, right now, is because, I don't know, everyone is kind of like self-taught in digital. Digital photography now is, kind of, so what's up, Doc? Everyone's doing it. Everyone's got an iPhone. I mean, it's like a rebirth of photography, because the camera inside the camera inside these things is unbelievable. I mean, I've taken pictures of the moon, with the zoom lens and the image processing that you can do with the Apple products, that are available to you, that are built right into the operating system of the phone. When you look at your photos, they have an image editing tool, toolbox, which I can show you here quickly. Face ID. There we go. He looks at me sideways. This little guy right here, the little flower doodad. There you go. So this is right here is actually a picture, and I can image edit it, but I'm not going to. And you can see there's a whole bunch of pictures lined up underneath there, and we can slide this around. I voted. Look at that. There, Department of Justice. That's on a blue, like on a blue cloth sheet thing. I don't think I did anything with the editing on that. Let's put a star. I'm going to highlight the heart, which then shows up on my favorite package group, and then I'm going to touch this little thing, a symbol next to the heart. Two things to the to the right of the heart. Boing, push that. There you go. So now I can crop it. Let's crop it first. There's the crop tool. It's very similar to the way Photoshop works. I'm going to touch up here in the top, and I'm going to touch down here where it says freeform. So now I can pull this bar over without having the aspect ratio. So I'm going to change the aspect ratio, because I'm going to pull these two bars over, centering the Department of Justice logo that's on that sheet. And then I'm going to come over here and press adjust. There we go. And if I press this one, it's going to do auto. See, auto popped up, and press auto. And you can see, press it, unpress it, press it, unpress it. So you can see I brightened it up a little bit, and then I can leave it in auto, and I can slide it up and down, and maybe get it just the way we want it. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to click done. There you go. So there's lesson 3 in my book. It's one of the early lesson numbers. I don't know if it's actually number 3. So we cropped it. We used the auto image editing, for actually editing the brightness, the contrast, the color, the hue. And we could always, press that button there and go back to that image editing, and we could hit revert, and that'll take it right back to the way we started. Then you have to do everything all over again, because once you go back to revert, you can't go back to where we are now. But if you want to go to revert, we can revert it and go back to exactly the way it was. 1, 2, 3, revert. Revert to original. Yup. There it goes. That's simple. Now, see, I don't have a button to unrevert. You can go back to the original, but that's it. J-Lo is getting divorced, and her Affleck, look at him, he's walking around, she's got her hand on his arm to this young young little marriage breaker. It takes two to tango, so I'm gonna do one of these just to fix that up a little bit. Her face is a bit too bright, but you know, it's two pictures in one, so it's hard to break that up. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why J-Lo is divorcing Ben Affleck, because he is, these two are living together, I think in California somewhere. And they're walking her dog, his dog. She looks like she's got a leash in her hand, and he's got a leash in his hand. So they're walking dogs together. How nice. So, yep, see, there he is. He doesn't look very happy here. Let's fix that up a little bit. He looks a little pale. Brighten his face up just a bit. He looks like he was out all night, the night before. Looked a little pale. All right, see, he just got out of a car. So he just parked his car. He's probably going into divorce court. Yep, so there he is, see? He looks a little happier there. He hasn't shaved in a while. And there he has. So, I don't know what that's... Anyway, so... She looks like she just got out of the shower. Her hair looks a little... like it hasn't cleaned up fully. So, I don't know who she's got one of those Cartier watches on, which is, you know, $15,000 watch, so she has some jewelry. Oh, see, there they are walking again. She's walking her dog, arm in arm. He's got his hand in his pocket. He doesn't have a... Whoops. She doesn't... I don't know if that's a different girl or not. I can't... Is that the same young lady? Let's look at her face. We're supposed to be able to be... A human brain is supposed to be very capable of looking at faces for recognition. Is that the same girl? I don't know. She's probably. I don't think he's got, you know, a whole bunch of girlfriends. But see, it looks like she's got the same leash on. See that leather leash? It looks like the same leash. So we can't recognize the person. We recognize the leash. You know, it's not one of those leashes. It's this kind of leash. And it's a little dog, so it's a little leash. There we go. That is a little tiny dog. I don't know. Yeah. In the building I live in here, there's probably 50 little dogs just like that. Different colors. Little fuzz budgets. Look at this. The most reliable... I clipped this article out. The most reliable used car brand. Look what's on top. Lexus and Toyota. And of course, Lexus is a special form of Toyota. So it makes sense that Toyota is right up there with Lexus. Because, you know, Toyota would be like, you know... I love... Well, I like both. I mean, I had an RX 450H, which was like an SUV. It was a hybrid. And I remember saying to myself, this is the best car I've ever driven. I mean, I remember bragging about that. This Lexus is unbelievable. I mean, my God. And the technology that it had in there with what you could see on the small screen, Yeah. Anyway, so I've driven Lexus, I've driven Mercedes, BMW, had a BMW X7, 7X, X7, I forget which way where the X was. And now I'm driving what do you call it? Tesla. This is my favorite car. I was thinking of earlier. I didn't say it earlier, but I had our first Tesla was in 2021, and it was a 3-year lease on a Model Y. They don't have many models. They have a Model X, they have a Model Y, they have a Model 3, and a Model S. S3XY. It was supposed to be SEXY. Yeah, he's a wise guy. But Ford Motor Company owns the Model E, the name Model E. It's in their portfolio of copyrighted. They've never used the Model E, but they have it. They have it name recognized, with copyright protection and so forth. So if Tesla wanted that Model E name, they could buy Ford and then say, okay, Ford, give me the name since we own your ass. Excuse me. We own your butt. He has enough money and the value of it in the stock, he could just buy Ford. Just buy 100% of the stock. Just buy them. Make an offer. And the shareholders have to approve the offer and make it a nice big fat offer. Something like 30 or 40% of what the stock is currently trading at. Give them a premium and you'll get the shareholders to go along with it. You'll have some holdouts. But there's a number where where a majority will go along with it, and then that acquisition would happen. They would end up with a majority of the shares, and then they would run the company. They'd own it anyway. Leave management in place. Because I want the name Model E. Assign it to Tesla. The lawyers are on the 3rd floor. Make that happen now. So send somebody downstairs to our lawyer room, and our lawyers are there prepared to accept, the copyright that you have on E, Model E. See, then they can change the manufacturing of the Model 3 to the Model E, and then it's sexy, SEXY. Cost me $23 billion worth of stock, to get control of that Model E name, or try to make a tender offer. Say, look, I want that name. We need that name. I'll give you $10 million for the name. Something, management says, no, that's our name. We're keeping it. Come on, come up with a number. I need it. I want it. We have a Model 3. We have a Model Y. We have a Model X. We have a Model S. I want a Model E. So, how much do you need? So, come up with a nice price, or I'm going to buy the company. and you will be fired. So, how shall it be? That's what I do. And then leave buy the company, get the name. And then leave the company to run the company. Ford is it's a marvelously operated company. They invented, the manufacturing lines, in factories to build cars, Tesla has obviously gone way out in manufacturing process. They're probably the world leader in producing, manufacturing of large or small scale, making cars, making SUVs, making cars. They manufacture the seats. They manufacture every darn thing. They machine everything that needs machining, like screws and nuts and bolts, they make them. They make the bolts right there in their own factories. They don't need anybody else. They just make, why are we buying this stuff from someone else? Let's just make the screws ourselves. We've got all the capability of making the screws. Make them better. Make them fast. And that way we reduce, the backup of all the supply chain. So if we're creating our own supply chain internally, it's a lot easier to manage than supply. If we're buying, these 40 number 4s bolts and 40 threads per inch and half-inch pipe, whatever it is, with a nut or a screw or manufactured here. So with all their robots, by the way, all those little actuators and motors and the arms and the legs and all that kind of stuff, they're manufacturing all those motors internally. They're using some of the designs they already have. The designs for the motors in cars. And whoosh, they just miniaturized some of those motors and put them right inside the arms and legs of their robot. I think they're coming on to... I'm watching a YouTube presentation of Elon Musk giving a dissertation to the shareholders in their annual shareholder meeting, or quarterly shareholder meeting. I think it was quarterly, which he just produced. Just had the quarterly shareholder meeting. For the 6-month period ending June 30. So, it was July, August. So, 4 or 5 weeks after the quarter ends, they produce all their quarterly financial statements, and then they have a quarterly shareholder meeting. It may be like this conversation, where it's you have all the financial people sitting around a big conference table, and you have a soundboard over there with 4, 6, 7, 8 ports, and you get 8 people sitting around a conference table with a microphone in front of them, and they all can speak up whenever it's their turn to speak and talk about the quarterly report of how the Tesla company has performed. And of course, most of it has to do with Tesla cars. And I think they produced, about 400,000 cars in the quarter. So, that's on online for 1,000,006 cars for the year. If you multiply 4 times 4 is 16. There's higher math for you. Add a few zeros, you get 1,000,006. But the quarterly value, June 30 of last year compared to June 30 of this year, they were down a couple of cars, maybe 10,000. So, and being down isn't the issue. It's that it's not up. Because for the past 5 or 6 years of the growth and development of the Tesla manufacturing facilities, the growth has been 30, 40, 50%. Comparing the June quarter to the June quarter of last year to the June quarter of the year before. You look at the charts and the graphs and everything. This is the first time that instead of it being sharply up, it's, got a mark to look like it's plateaued. He says, I promise you it's not plateaued. Because our manufacturing, our robotics and so forth in our manufacturing facility, we can turn a dial and turn it up to faster. Where in improving our supply lines, our supply chain of supplies, because if you run out of wheels, you know, the factory line stops. We don't want that. So we got to have all these wheels coming in, you know, all this rubber, you know, it goes on and on. Screws and bolts and seats and, you know, wheels and steering wheels and, you know, the screens, and, you know, you have to manufacture these computers, you know, which go in there, and the battery packs. I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, there's not 8,000 parts, but there's 1,000 parts. I think we got it down to 1,000. You know, the typical Ford that comes off the assembly line has 8,000 parts. Well, I think we're down to 1,000 parts. You know, the best part is no part at all. So if you can eliminate a part, that cuts back on your supply chain. So if you you know, we have these big presses that, you know, that produce the front end. We got a giant press, you know, that's puts 1,000,000 pounds per square inch on this, you know, either stainless steel or, you know, aluminum, alloy, whatever is coming out of our machine shops. We got these big presses, and we're producing the entire back end of the car, the entire front end of the car. You know, that eliminated 600 parts right there, because you're not screwing and bolting all these different pieces together. This is a molten metal, you know, that's cast in this big heavy duty press. So that molten metal's in there, and then it gets squeezed, you know, and produces a very hard front end and a very hard rear end. And that's how the Model 3 and the Model Y, they both have the same front ends and rear ends. It's identical. The computer, identical. So the more things that can be identical from car to car, like the Model 3, the Model Y, the Model X, the Model S, like Super, they all have the exact same computer. They have 8 cameras all the way around. Everybody's got the exact same cameras. They got the exact same motors, you know. The Model 3 and the Model Y have the very exact front ends and rear ends. They're manufactured with these giant presses. You know, the biggest presses in the world are located at gigafactories. Now, the Model S and the Model X, they're similar frames with different bodies on top of the frames. You know, you got the 4-wheel, the battery, 2 wheels, motor, battery, 2 wheels, motor. Battery goes all the way across. We call it a structural battery, because the container that holds all the cells is structural rigid, and it's actually becomes part of the frame of the car. So we don't have the battery in a weak container. It's a 1/4 inch. It's 4 millimeters. I think it's 6 millimeters of titanium all the way around. 6 millimeters of titanium all the way around, top and bottom. Pure titanium. Maybe there's a little nickel in it, but it's basically titanium. You know, and it's machined and that's what the front end and the rear end of all the cars bolt to. So we call that a structural battery. You know. So these are all the kinds of things that eliminates a lot of parts. Eliminates a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors, a lot of parts. This didn't get screwed down all the way. You know. So the fewer parts you have, the fewer mistakes can be made, or the faster it can be assembled. That's why their manufacturing facilities are so efficient. And, so we sold 400,000 cars last quarter, instead of 420,000 cars. So, the economy gets a little bit better, the interest rates come down a little bit, we'll sell more cars. We're trying to reduce the prices as much as possible to make it extremely competitive. But we have financing resources, internally and externally. So it's not like people that want to buy a Tesla car have to go hunting for the financing. We'll just do it. And we'll do it extremely affordably. No one will be able to beat the rates anyway, so you don't need to shop the rates, but you can. But we have, our interest rates are probably a full 100 basis points below the market rate. That if someone was going to buy a Ford 150 truck and get it financed, the rates on our loans are lower than the rates of any F-150 car loan that's commercially available. And that's, it makes it very nice for our people that drive Teslas, because they know that they're going to get, if they're going to get financing, a lot of people just buy them. But if they're leasing them, personally, I'm a big fan of leasing because it's the most efficient way of using your dollars. And so if you want to drive a car, depreciation is what one experiences in owning a car. Every month it depreciates a little bit. And so you got the cost of the money and you got the cost of depreciation. You add those two together and that's your leasing cost. That's what you charge the customer. You charge for the cost of the money, and you fabricate what the depreciation will be and divide it by 36, and that's your cost of depreciation over the 3 years. And the interest rate, you're borrowing the money essentially for a 3-year period of time. The price of the car was new at this number. When you turn it in, it's worth that number. You're going to assess the interest rate on that money factor that you've used, and that's your lease payment. In the case of a Model Y that goes out the door at about $50,000, which is the case, it costs you $600 a month. That's an easy way of explaining it. $50,000 car costs $6,000 a month. $600 a month. $50,000 car costs $600 a month. So do the math. 6 times 36. That's how much you paid over 3 years. So who cares who owns the car? You can buy the car, right? Why? What, you want to be in the car business? I don't. I just want to drive the car. And I'd rather not write a check for $50K. So, because then you don't have $50,000 worth of money, in the stock market or in the gold market and in the precious metals market. So I'd rather lease it. And there's another reason I'd rather lease a Tesla. Number one, it was the first Tesla. Now we've already done a lease, and now we're on our 4th year of the second car. So we've signed a new 3-year lease, $600 a month, $50,000 car. I think it was $50,050. 50050. So, and the last one was $600 a month, and it was about a $52,000 car. Now it's a $50,000 car. It's $2,000 less expensive because they're, they charged, $2,000 less. It's not because I cut off or cut out. You know, you really, you pick your color, and you got four or five choices. You pick it whether you want all-wheel drive with a bigger battery, or do you want rear-wheel drive with a bigger or smaller battery. So you don't have a lot of options, so to speak. What else is an option? Oh, you can wheels. So you can pay $2,000 more and get wheels with different, fins and so forth. We just took the standard wheel, and so it's 50 instead of 52,000. $600 a month. The other reason why I'd like to lease the car, and we wouldn't have gotten another one unless the fact that we actually liked it. I asked Marilyn, "Do you want to get another one of these? You want to go back to the Honda Accord, which is fine also. But the Tesla's kind of fun, isn't it? Electric. You don't have a gas station. It's really, it's super fast. When you hit the accelerator pedal, that thing can jump. There's no gasoline car can keep up with the Tesla. So as far as racing the car, forget it. The other cars can't. They're in the rearview mirror within the first 3 seconds of when you step on the pedal. I've raced the car 3 times. Look around, and the police, and you're in the front. The light turns green. Cars in the back. Some kind of Mustang, whatever. You can't keep. The car's just too fast. All-wheel drive, 400 horsepower of electric horsepower, which is super strong. You might have 600 horsepower in a gas car, but you got to get that engine revved up to about 3,000 RPM. And then you got to switch through the gears, and it goes. It's just, these motors run at 20,000 RPM. These little guys. It's almost like a little jet engine in there. You got this, little solenoid in there rotating at between 5 and 10,000 RPM. I mean, it's crazy. It's got one gear. Doesn't have a transmission. It's got one gear reduction, 10-to-1 gear reduction. So if the engine's running at 5,000 RPM, the motor, then the drive shaft is running at 500 RPM. That's it. With electric motors, you get the full horsepower at 5 RPM as opposed to 500 RPM or 5,000 RPM. You get all the horsepower at the very low starting speed, whereas an ICE engine, meaning an internal combustion engine, simplified it with the acronym ICE for internal combustion engine, because you can say it faster. We're in such a hurry. But, you don't have the full horsepower in an ICE engine. There's a curve, and it's around 3,000 RPM. You get at least 90% of your horsepower at 3,000 RPM. But you don't have a lot of horsepower at the startup RPM. When the engine's running at, if it's idling at 500 RPM, you got 1/10 the horsepower. You got to get to, past 2,000 RPM before you're starting to realize any of that power in the engine. With an electric motor, you get the power at very low RPM and very high RPM and everything in between. So the electric motor is very efficient. And, very powerful when you're sitting there with an accelerator pedal. Because when you push down on that pedal, the car goes. And you have to be careful. Because it goes a lot faster than when you push the pedal down in a gas car. And I've driven gas cars, our whole lives. 40, 50 years worth of experience with ICE engines. But the Honda Accord, the Toyota, and the Lexus, they're all embodied in the top 5. Acura is in there, which is a step up from a Honda, but it's a Honda product. And then 6 on down is, Buick and da-da-da. But Lexus, Toyota, Mazda, Acura, and Honda are the top 5. Top 2, Lexus and Toyota. Number 15 on the list is Volvo. Chrysler is in the bottom. Dodge is in the bottom. Most reliable used car. There's 5-year-old to 10-year-old models. Now Tesla is in the bottom. It's listed at number 24. But there are not a lot of old Teslas, because the company's new. They were just getting underway in production 5 years ago. So, and you don't really have any 10-year-old Teslas. Everyone still has them. So you don't really have a consumer report, of people buying a used Tesla because, there's not that many of them. A couple of 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. But Tesla, Toyota, Acura, Mazda, and Honda, there are millions of units, 5-10 years ago. But not so with Tesla. It's a relatively new company. They make 1 million or 4 models together. Model 3, Model Y, which we drive, which is the SUV version of a Model 3. Slightly more luxurious. They're all nice. When you buy a Tesla Model Y, what kind of radio they put in there? Super duper 12 speaker, low frequency woofers, you only get a high grade radio, period. Every car has the same high grade radio. They don't have a bad, sound system. It's 200, 300, 400, 500 watts, whatever the watts are. What? It's super powerful. You turn that up, you have an equalizer in there, so if you want more bass, you want more treble, whatever. It's amazing. So, it's a premium radio, period. Premium sound system. I guess the best way to describe that in the car. 12:45. That means I've been talking for 1 hour and 43 minutes. There it is, 1 hour and 43 minutes and 48 seconds. Yeah, there we go. Minute 44 on the official clock. I wanted to show you something else. This right here, I'll give you the easy version of this. Here's the look at this, New York Post. Harris for Trump. Kamala Harris is copying almost every principle. She's wearing a MAGA hat. Harris for Trump. Yes, sir. She's pretending she's not really liberal. Yeah. GOP. Tough border. And her talk is all a big con job. There you can see the little story there. That's on the cover of the New York Post today. Kamala Harris has a plan to win. Pretend she's more like Donald Trump. That's her plan. She's already flip-flopped on fracking, which is a method of oil production, shallow oil, instead of drilling down 3,000, 4,000 feet, the fracking doesn't go that deep to pick up the oil that's in the sand. It's usually mixed in with sand, at shallower depths. And they pump in steam, which shakes the oil loose from the sand, and then they pump the oil out and they then refine it. That's what fracking is, a simplified version of that. Yeah. So she's flip-flopping on fracking because she says, oh, no fracking. She's on electric car mandates. Oh, yeah, no, you can buy any car you want. Not a year ago. She has a transformation. It's like getting a new set of teeth. Now, after years of failing to secure the border and allowing massive levels of migration, she's claiming that she's going to get tough and even build a wall. She don't want anything but walls. Nah, walls don't work. Hey, sweetie, you got a front door on your house? You got a wall around your property? Everyone, that has a mansion property's got a wall around it. If it's not cement, it's a highly dense, form of vegetation. You ain't getting through it. You may get over it, but you ain't getting through it. Anyway, that's the cover of the New York Post today, the late city edition. This is Wednesday, August 28th. That's today. $2. It's going to be thunderstorms and 93 degrees today in sunny Manhattan. $2 a copy. This is the cover. It's like one of these magazines that you find in the Sunday newspaper. It's called the New York Post. It's got millions in circulation of this, and digital. I get the digital covers every day. That's the latest one. This is the stupidest rule in golf. In professional golf. This is the stupidest rule. Is Rule 5.3a. And it deals with when you can, see, he's got his ball on his tee. He's standing there, kind of like standing up with his driver in his hand. His playing partner is saying, why don't you tee off? And he's got his finger on his watch. That's what's going on there. And he's telling her, I can't tee off yet because it's not our tee time. When you make a reservation for your tee time, whether it be in a professional golf tournament or anywhere, according to Rule 5.3a, you are not allowed to tee off before your tee time. And if you don't tee off in 10 minutes, you lose your tee time, and you must step aside and let the people behind you tee off through you. That's the rule. You have to tee off at your tee time, unless you can't, because the people in front of you are still in front of you, because you don't want to tee off into them. But you have to tee off at your tee time. And the question is this the stupidest rule in golf? And there's a whole little story which I clipped out. I didn't clip out much of it, but it just says Rule 5.3a deals with when you can start your round of golf. And you have to start off at your tee time. Exactly. Not before. Nor after. And you have a couple minutes, but everyone, you'll notice if you pay attention to things in professional golf matches like PGA golf matches, which they start their first round tomorrow. They're practicing today. They play par 3 course or something or other. There's charity stuff that goes on Wednesday. Tuesday is a practice round for themselves. Monday they fly into the city of where the golf tournament is. Every week there's a round of golf that starts off on Thursday. This is Wednesday, so the pros are fooling around the par 3 course, taking photos with dignitaries and handicapped people and all that publicity and TV cameras floating around. Your tee time is the stupidest rule in golf. Cannot tee off early. That's why that's there. This is an iPad. It's an 11-inch iPad. The reason why this is on my little screen here, I have one of those right here, but it's white. It's charcoal color instead of white. I have a little tiny white one. That's an 11-inch screen. This is a 13-inch screen. But the 11-inch screen, which I'm showing here, reverse pinch on my... See, now this is an older iPad. That's not... But it's... I don't have a keyboard for it. I've only got one keyboard. This is an old one which I'm using as a display screen, almost like a TV screen, which I have connected to my MacBook Pro here, which is getting transmitted Simulcast, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, now known as X. So I'm simulcasting on X, which is Twitter, YouTube Live, @FAU4U. On Facebook, it's @FAU4U. And Twitter, I had to get another account because for some reason or other they got me blocked out. You've been blocked out. I violated something. I don't know what the hell that is. And I can't get through to anybody. So my @FAU4U symbol is blocked out. So I had to do another one. That's why when you look at the streaming stuff that's on the top of my screen, that's going across there in yellow, that's why it says @JIMW 5596. 5596 is JLWM if you dialed it on a telephone. You got the little numbers, like A is 1 2 3, and B is 4 5 6, so forth. Well, J is the 10th letter of the alphabet, so, and when you're grouping them by 3, so JLW, MMW, JLW is 5596. So Jim W 5596. That's how that works. So you see up on the top. 50 years ago, if you worked in the IBM company, they had desktop signs that said, think. God damn it. Pardon me. Think. See you soon. So now when you see this thing coming up on the right side of the screen and scrolling like a ticker tape to the left, you see like a lightning bolt, and it says, welcome to Jim Wilson's live simulcast, broadcasting several networks Several social networks. I need a preposition there. I noticed that the other day. It's actually 3 social networks simultaneously. YouTube Live, in brackets there, I have the @ FAU for you, if you wanted to search it. Facebook Live, the same handle on that network, @FAU for you. And Twitter Live, @JimW5596. Because they blocked the other account. It's been blocked for several years and I cannot figure out why. I've texted them, say, what? What are you doing? So I said, hell with it, I'll just create another account. So that's why I have another account with JimW5596. Anyway, so this iPad looks like an 11-inch iPad, on that rubbery kind of a keyboard thing. And it really, it's good. There's a keyboard and there's 3 little metal dots over here on the right side that it connects to this magnetic back, the back of the keyboard. Because Apple is coming up with a whole new bunch of conversation about iPads, and the thoughts are, no one knows until it happens. Apple is very, secrecy, and everyone signs non-disclosure agreements. If anyone catches you leaking any corporate secrets like new products to the public, don't tell anybody, or else we're not only going to fire you, we're going to fine you. And we will find you and fine you. We will prosecute you in court. So don't screw around with talking about company secrets. What's a company secret? Like a new product? Don't tell anybody about our new products. Period. Because they'll repeat it and then you're going to get fired and fined. You're going to pay a lot of money. More than your salary for a couple of years. That would be like a $500,000 fine for leaking a company secret about a new product. Well, we have learned they're probably going to come up with a 6th version, like 5, 6, 7, a 6th version of their iPad mini. Now, let's see, what is this? This is not an iPad mini I have up here. This is an old 11-inch iPad. So what I have up here is what's pictured in the screen with the white keyboard, which I have, and the Apple Pencil, which I have right here. But this is an 11-inch iPad, or 11.9 inch, whatever. It's an old one, but you pay $1,000 for these stupid things with the memory and the access to the cell system. Has its own SIM card in there, so it not only can be in the network, which it is, and I can see the little baseball field. That means that it connects to. I can do up here. I can do settings. I can hit the About key, and I actually have a cellular data line number, 561-235-8777. So that's a SIM card. Now these models, there's a little SIM card up there. The new models, this is an older model, don't have SIM cards, I don't think. Nope, there's no SIM card. It's electronic SIM. I have a data line number in here. I don't recall what it is, because I'd have to do what I just did here, and it's kind of like closed up, and it'll bump into this microphone thing. See, there's my my data line number. The carrier is AT&T 59, which is, the version of the modem, basically. Firmware 5.0206, and the SCID number, you push that, and then there's a long string. You can copy that if you wanted it for some reason. Here's my Apple Pencil, which is connected. There you go. It's hardware version 1100. Model number is A2051. And the firmware version is, look at all those numbers. Anyway, so there's my Apple Care warranty. What's going on with that? I have Apple Care on this unit. Yep, see, there's the name of it. And just so you know, where it says about, name, you can put up whatever your name you want in there. The keyboard pops up, and you can change the name. But if you see, you're seeing that it's small print. I have the iPad Pro. It's the 202, so it's 2 years old version. It's generation 5. There's the serial number, followed by my phone number. Or no, followed by the data line number, 561-235-8777. So that's the name I put on this device. So if anything pops up in your system, whatever, it pulls up that name. See, Jim W, 12-inch. It's actually 11.7. But I just said 12-inch. I have a single apple. I've had 2 apples, and I've had 3 apples up there. Apple. So I took all the apples out this year and made it a single apple and called it iPad Pro 2022V for version and generation 5. The electronics that's in it. That's it. I have 905 songs, 498 videos, 91,841 photos in that iPad. It has a capacity of 1 terabyte, and I've got 449 gigabytes available. That means it's using 551 gigabytes. That's and most of that is tied up in these 91,000 photos. And I want all the photos on the devices. It's also up in the cloud, but I want it on the devices, so that even if I'm not on the cloud, I can access all my photos or videos. Notice over here, I'm wiggling it, VPN. I have decided to be a VPN person. And because that way, when I'm transmitting all over the world with this stuff, no one can track my, what do you call it? You can't locate the server. It's the IP address that we're trying to shield from bad guys. Hackers want your IP address. So with a virtual private network, which is what VPN is, and I have the ghost version of that. VPN is important. Let's see if I do VPN. No, that's too good. Let's pull that down again. Get rid of that ghost. GH. There, yeah, see, CyberGhost. That's it. I have CyberGhost. It's an app. It's, so I'm connected to the CyberGhost, to their servers, and my VPN IP address is 154.1.291.235. That's a VPN. That's an IP address that's actually on a server in New York, and it shows the gigabytes up and the gigabytes down, my bandwidth, stuff. So it's working, and that's so CyberGhost. It's inexpensive. You should try that out. If you've ever if you've ever had if you know of anybody or you have any experienced, where bad people has gotten into your device and taken your money, or taken some money, or taken a shipment or whatever, they have to get to your IP address before they can get into your device, because that's the route. They come up through the server that's housing your IP address, like I and P like Peter, IP address. So when you have a virtual private network, the IP address is not actually your address. It's what CyberGhost shows everybody else your IP address is. So it's like an IP address of an IP address. You like step back, one step, so that they can't get to you. They can only get into the ghost servers, not your server. So that's the purpose of that's the simple explanation of what the CyberGhost does. And you can see it's a yellow symbol with a little ghost thing in the middle. You can hardly see it over here, all the way to the right side, the bottom right corner of this guy right here. If I went full screen there, producer, maybe it'd be easier for them to see. There you go. You see down here, all the way down. Can't see me pointing anymore because my camera's not on me. But you see CyberGhost. I touch it, and this is what pops up. Yep. It runs in the background. You don't even have to have it in your normal background. Get rid of all this stuff. Pharmacy, TikTok, settings. What's this? This is a Wikipedia. Don't need that. There you go. When you have those things open in the background there, it takes up a little piece of your memory. Now I've got, like lots of memory here. Actually, let's take a look. We're gonna buy. Let's see. Well, we did the about. Yeah. We're about halfway. We've got a 1 terabyte of memory of storage. It's all electronic storage, no disk, no spinning disk. It's all solid state, it's all on chips. So I've got the 1 terabyte chipset, which would be the accurate way of depicting that. iPad storage, let's see what that says. Oh yeah, so that takes your 449 gigabytes that you've used, and it divides it up into categories. And up on the top, where it says sizing, right on the very top, right side of the page, it'll have different. There you go. It has different colors. So you see, photos is more than. So I'm using 573 gigabytes of the terabyte. So that's where I want to be. So I don't need to increase my storage more than 1 terabyte. I think this year they're going to allow up to 2 terabytes, for an extra $100 or something or other. If I was buying a new iPad, which I'm not. My phone, all these devices have the same amount of photos, because if I create a photo on this iPad, on the iPad underneath my, let's put me back in here. So this iPad, which is a current iPad Pro, and it has the same 93,000 photos that this one does, that the iPhone has. They all sync up, so when I create a picture or a graphic or a photo on here, it goes to all the other devices automatically. It might take a couple minutes, but it syncs up, you know, with all your photos. All right. So I like using half. You know, if it was like 1/10, then I have too much memory. You know, why are you paying, you know, an extra couple $100 for storage that you're not using? But if you're using half of it, you know, and next year and the year after, I'll be adding images to that. And then I'll be using 75% and 80%. So when you get to 75 or 80%, you got to go to the next storage level. I'm at 1 terabyte, and I'm good to stay there. And I'm sure the same thing is with my iPhone. Let me just check it. Because, you know, on September 9th, they're going to be announcing the new iPhone, which means that night or the next morning, you can order your device, and we turn in our iPhones every year for the new version. So let's go to settings, and we go to general, about. That's the syntax on how to get to this particular place. You see, 546 gigabytes. My capacity is 1.02 terabytes. See the 91,800 photographs? Same thing over there, same thing in here. Yep. Because everything syncs up on the photos. I don't have a lot of onboard songs and all that stuff, so you don't really call it. I have a SIM card on here. It's locked because with AT&T. Now, if I, you know, you can buy these AT&T. I mean, these are like little computers in your hand. I mean, it's like an unbelievable camera thing with these 3 cameras and the Prism technology. It's amazing, the pictures you can get. I've taken pictures of the moon because of these. I'm using, see, I'm a beta tester. Well, you can't see this really. iOS 18. So most people aren't on iOS 18. You have to be a beta tester to get to iOS 18. We're on beta 5. So they've actually had 5 separate downloads of versions of iOS 18 because they're getting ready to pencils down on that for the announcement on September 9th. So they got a couple more days, and they'll be, the final version of 18 will be publishable, because they're manufacturing the phones right now, and they're stuffing it with software. Because this, you know, this operating software is in the phone when you get it. Well, they're putting the boxes together right now, millions of them, tens of millions of them. And Jimmy and Marilyn are going to be, you know, in that first batch that arrives, you know, on Friday or whenever the day they specify will be the opening day of that product. I'm going to get back to my. This is a clock showing we've been on the air 2 hours and 14 minutes, and it's now 1:16 p.m. and I guess we'll call it a day. This is a Wednesday. Wish me luck. I'm going to the cardiologist tomorrow, and I have my. I'll show you. Maybe it's in, this is in the printer. It is. I've shown this to you already. Cardia. I have my EKG report, and it says that I have a sinus rhythm, which is good, as opposed to AFib. But there's a but on here. But? What do you mean but? Let's see. So I did this on 2 different occasions. Recording overview. Cardia Advanced Determination. And the advanced determination is, excuse me, I have a sinus rhythm with a supraventricular ectopy. See, I was a biochemist, so I learned how to pronounce all the big words. Really, if I couldn't pronounce it, I couldn't remember it. You know, I mean, it's something about the way my brain works, you know, with the audio, you know, and audio and the video and writing, and, you know, I had to be able to pronounce the words. Supraventricular ectopy, aka SVE, indicates a sinus rhythm with occasional irregular beats originating from the top of the heart. A common reason for this premature atrial contraction, also known as a PAC, P-A-C. So these premature arterial contractions, these PACs are extra heartbeats that originate in the top of the heart and usually beat sooner than the next regularly expected heartbeat. After the PAC beat, a pause occurs, so it's not like beep, 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 you know, there's a pause that usually occurs, which causes the next normal heartbeat, remember this one jumped in front of it, to be more forceful. So, you know, this is, you know, like halfway to an AFib, because you don't want these forceful beats, because that, you know, it's like it's a blood pressure thing. And if you have a more forceful beat than what should be, you know, it can cause, you know, a blood vessel to pop in your head and you get a stroke. That's exactly what happens, you know, I'm sorry to say. If you felt your heart skipping a beat, it's not really skipping a beat, it's an additional beat. You know, and PACs rarely cause symptoms, but you may feel a fluttering, like in your chest, a little fluttering. You may be a little dizziness, increased awareness that your heart is beating, or skipping. But it's actually not skipping. It's an additional beat that the PACs like go in there right before the next usual heartbeat. And you know, you have these graphs, which I've shown, and you can see, you know, the beat of the heart, you know. And I have supraventricular ectopy. So I'm going to present this to my cardiologist. I made 2 copies, and I want to discuss this with him. He gets this copy. Yep. I have it all down in my computer, but I'm going to bring this hard copy. I just left it in the printer thingy here. Now, since my appointment is tomorrow, I'm going to put it in a more prominent spot. Right on top of here. Sinus rhythm with a supraventricular ectopy. There are PACs flowing around there. This little PAC flies in there, and this, you know, it's a beat, but the next regular beat then beats harder, and that's what can give you a stroke. But it doesn't usually happen with an SV. What's the three initials? SVE. Supraventricular ectopy. I'll have to practice that word. Supra, S-U-P-R-A, like a supercar. Supraventricular ectopy. Yep, SVE. Dr. Ordonez, I have a sinus rhythm with an SVE every once in a while. What should we do about that? Because it sounds like I'm leaning towards AFib. You know, you have these powerful beats, because right after the SVE I have a more powerful beat, and that more powerful beat may cause a stroke. We don't want that. You know, when I'm crowding 80. Crowding 80. I'm not there yet. I'd like to get there. You know, you say 94. At 14 more years of this. Holy mackerel. Yeah. Those SVEs might get too powerful. 2 hours and 21 minutes. I'm counting. I'm out of here. It's 1:30. It's about time I figured out what I'm going to have for lunch. I went down to lemongrass, so I have a little sample pack in there. I might just have a dinner. I don't have any pasta. I think I'll make up some pasta. Yeah, I have plenty of pasta pieces. I guess Marilyn likes the squiggles, so as opposed to the spaghetti. I think maybe I'll make one box of spaghetti and one box of the squiggles. I'll do the squiggles first, and then I'll strain them out, and then in that hot water I'll get it boiling again, and throw in the spaghetti. Yeah, I'm going to do that. All right, so I won't have lunch until 2. This will take me a half hour to make the preparations. And I hope you have a nice afternoon. Harris promises a harsher. You know, bullshit. There's no way. They're, you know, what they call controlling the border is taking down their names and numbers faster. The border is still open. Now, even if they build up the wall a little bit, they're still going to be coming in a gate, and they'll take the names down, but then they get released into the country because they're that's on purpose. They want more voters. They'll assume that those voters are going to be more Democrats than Republicans, and then they will control more congressional elections. They'll have more House of Representatives, because it's assumed that a lot of those immigrants are going to be in blue states where there are sanctuary cities, as opposed to red states where there are no sanctuary cities, or few. And that's why they want the border open. If they could get it up to 20 million, they'll do it. They're at 13 million. If they get another 4 years, it'll be up to 22 million, I guarantee it. And they're going to be all over the country. You got some bad guys, so there's going to be a lot of crime on the streets. You know, a country with no border is no country, according to our founders. You must have a secure border. Try doing that in Germany. Try doing that in Russia or Ukraine or anywhere. Countries have border security. You can't just walk in, you know, to Italy. You got to have a visa before you get into Italy. Now, you can illegally get into Italy, but then you're an illegal alien. And if they find you, you go in jail for a long time. In the United States, you go in jail one door and you go out the back door the same day. You don't spend any time in prison. No, they let you loose. Because this way, there'll be greater populations in the blue states. That means you'll get more House of Representatives people. And that means you'll have better control of the House of Representatives. Now, each state only gets 2 senators. So even with the erroneously expanded population, you don't get any more senators. Now, if they add more states, then you get more senators. They're trying to do that with the District of Columbia. Let's make that a state. Well, if you got the president, you got the vice president. If you got the presidency, and you've got the House under control, and you have the Senate under control, I'm making that up because they currently don't have both houses of the Congress. They're going to make Delaware a state. And guess what? They'll add 2 Democratic senators. Then they'll have even more control over the Senate. You know, so this is a real serious problem we have here. They'll add Puerto Rico as a state. They'll make the District of Columbia, they'll make it a state. And every state is entitled to 2 senators, according to our United States Constitution. So they're doing everything kind of legally, but so you really, you know, you cannot give the presidency, the House, and the Senate to the Democratic Party. They will ruin our country. They're so controlled by left-wingers that, you know, the only stopgap the Republicans have right now is they control the House of Representatives by, you know, like only 2 or 3 members. Yeah. Geez. So by 2 or 3 members, we can block any legislation that goes through the system. But you know, everybody's up for election on November 5th, by the way. So we're hoping. I'm a conservative, I have to say. And if you haven't found out already, I try not to do politics on this broadcast. But this is a very serious. November 5th is probably one of the most important elections in the history of the United States. Because, in my view, and I've been around here 79 years, I've been voting for 60 years of that. That's a long time. That's more voting than most people are. You know, so I've seen and comprehended most of what's happened in American history, you know, in the last 60 years. Or 55 years, let's say that. So, and I pay attention to what's going on. I mean, I watch the news and read the news all the time. I've been reading about the news. How'd you like to be that family? This guy controls, you know, billions and billions of dollars. He and his daughter, 18-year-old daughter, dead. They're on a sailboat, on a huge sailboat. It's got a crew of, 11 or 12, and they had 15 people on board. So you got almost 1 crew person per person, And the ship capsized and went straight down because of some very freak storm that showed up just south of Italy. Sicily. South of Italy, too. And bam! It's underlying. And there are sailboats around it. They're fine. But this huge sailboat with the second largest mast in the world, made of aluminum or something, snapped. So that's some serious, that's some serious stuff going on. Weather-wise. There are no holes in the boat. No one shot it down. It was in the middle of the night, everyone's sleeping, and bam, all of a sudden, big seas, and, this one of the wealthiest guys in England, dead, daughter dead. There were 5 or 6 drowned, and 10 or 11 escaped. Life preservers and all that kind of thing. Yeah, I have a VPN on. I just got a message that says turn on your VPN. It's on. There you go. Okay. 2 hours and 30 minutes. We're done. You have a nice afternoon. I'm going to end this broadcast with about 30 seconds of what's left of Epidemic Sound Instrumental, royalty free, which I have as my background here, and I'm going to put it into the foreground. I'm going to stop talking. Goodbye. See you tomorrow.